So here's the truth. No one will care as much about your VA claims process and your claims as much as you will. And if you're filing for the first time to get an appropriate rating, there's many avenues that you can go through, and you've probably looked some of these up. So you've probably heard of friends using VSOs and lawyers in different companies, but you can actually do this process yourself a lot of the time. So why would you want to do that? So in today's video, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of each of those avenues that you can use and why actually learning yourself might be the best investment you can possibly make. So let's talk about the whole VA landscape right now. And if you haven't been watching the news, if you're not kept up with this, it's not looking great for the VA. They're laying off a lot of people. They might be changing their budgets. They're cutting some areas. They are actually improving others, so you can't totally rag on the VA, but there's a lot of changes and things are a little hairy. And so as you can imagine, when you look at a VSO, there's a pretty good chance that right now they might be overworked if you even have the same VSO setups that you had a year ago. Maybe there's some people that had left or retired early, or maybe they did get let go. So there is that. Now, lawyers, on the other hand, they can be super helpful. On the other end of the spectrum, if you have a denial, a lawyer is probably one of the best avenues that you can go. But leading up to that point, why did you get denied in the first place? And lastly, you have for-profit companies, and some are really good, some are super knowledgeable on what they do, and some are really shady and want to take a lot of money, and you might not get approved in the first place. So where do you actually go for this then? Here's the thing, is all of these routes mean you have to depend on somebody else for your claim, no matter what. You're handing them the steering wheel of the car, you are hopping in the passenger seat. And if you are really unsure of where to start, I understand how people get to this point. They go to the VA for the first time and they say, do you want to talk to a VSO about claims? And there you go, you're just in the queue talking to somebody about claims. So there comes a superpower with self-education. And a lot of you have found this video because you are trying to self-educate. And that's fantastic. This is the place that you need to be because there's a lot of free content out there that can actually get you like 95% of the way there. This isn't a do-it-yourself method to save money. This is to have power and freedom in your decision to continue with this process. Because at the end of the day, if you are self-educating, you are not only learning the pieces of the process of the VA for claims, but you know your own story. You know your own diagnoses. So what better way for you to represent yourself than learning as much as you can about the VA? And that's why there is a ton of videos out there. That's why there's a ton of content. The VA doesn't do a good job at marketing some programs they have, let alone educating you on actually doing the steps in the process. And they're probably not going to give you the secret formulas of here's how to write a good statement, here's the verbiage that we use. Do they really want people to win on their own, or do they want people to use a VSO, or do they even want to give out more money if they need to? That's up for debate, but at the end of the day, when you know more about the circumstances you're in and then adding it and learning more about the process that you can do, you don't need any of the other people to help. I want to be really clear. There are really good companies and really good lawyers, but at the end of the day, they are the best in practice for getting out of a denial situation. If you're having denials, if you're going back years and years and years in your process and you think that you have a good case that you can build up with a lawyer, that's where they really shine. And you will be paying for that. You'll be paying 20 to 30% in 1 year sometimes just to get yourself approved on something that was denied in the first place because maybe you weren't educated or maybe somebody wasn't actually helping you and you invested your time into them and they were supposed to invest back into you. But really, to me, the worst part of that process is veterans never actually learn how they got out of that denial. They can't talk to their friends or their family that might be doing a similar process. They just say, well, go use the same lawyer, but it's not going to be the same situation for everybody. So where's the benefit if you're not going to learn how you got out of there in the first place? So you're probably thinking, great, well, I don't want to pay as much. And that's what the VA has veteran service officers for. And there's pros and cons with that. Most people walk in and say, well, I hope this works. And I hope this person is an expert. And they kind of just trust the process that they're given. And there's some people that are extremely strategic and will actually help veterans. And there are some that are just checking the boxes for you because, again, they're a free service. They're going to be overwhelmed and overworked right now in what's happening with the VA landscape. And so you have to continue to think about this when you're going through this process and say, they actually might be able to educate you, but they actually also could be the same people that don't educate you because they don't really care about your case. At least with a lawyer, you're paying for a result. And you'll be paying upfront for that result. And you might be paying a residual pay forever to that lawyer for that result. But you will get that result. And with the VSO, that's not really a guarantee. So it comes down to the last thing, which is the self-education piece. Because if you've looked at all of these things before, and I have actually physically paid into every single one of those categories with my time or my money, and I've self-educated. And at the end of the day, believe it or not, when I sat down and educated myself for about 6 months straight, like I was in grad school again, I won my cases by myself, submitting claims on my own entirely. And this is where I do have a shameless plug, because I haven't seen courses that are as thorough as mine. Mind you, I've paid for other courses in the past and thought this was helpful, but this 1 hour block of instruction wasn't enough for me to win my claim. I had to piece that together, and podcasts and talking to a VSO and paying a company. And I had to piece all these things together to get my own claims figured out all the way. But that is why I started Veteran Claims Blueprint. I wanted to make an actual legitimate start to finish course with like 8 hours of information that has free templates to use, examples of personal statements, links to my site where you can do calculations, links to people's hard examples with evidence that have been approved in the videos, and actually step-by-step process on everything the VA looks for, everything you can do. I put it all in one package for this reason, because I believe self-education is going to be the best outcome. And see, the best part is that investment in the course that I have is just one avenue. And I always encourage people, take everything that you can learn, take everything from YouTube, look at podcasts, read blogs that come out. And the reason that I made a course is to package this up into a structure that you can learn from. And it's a one-time payment for this reason, and you get lifetime access, but then you always know the things you might not know going into talking to a lawyer. You know the process from the VA when you actually might need to go to a VSO. Maybe there's questions that you have that are specific about one condition, but you know the process and the steps you need, and you can bounce that idea off of a VSO or off of a doctor or off of a lawyer when you need it. When you need a lawyer is when you get denied. But if you can do the work up front and at least be knowledgeable when you get a denial, you know why you're getting a denial, then you can take that to a lawyer and you can speak the language with him. You aren't just gonna say, hey man, I'll just pay you up front to do X, Y, and Z, because you don't really know what those are. You don't really know what that means in the first place. So what are you gonna do with that person except for just hand them money and hope for the best? It really is a superpower to be educated, because then you have decision-making ability, and that's gonna be better long-term. It's going to be better for your bank account if you know as much information up front. You spend the time to educate and practice these things before you pay money to somebody else to do it for you. And so I have to admit, I run a company that makes a course online to educate people, right? So you do have to pay upfront, but you're paying upfront to learn, and you're paying upfront to learn in a process that I personally continue to update that course every few months as the VA changes. So you have a reference guide to go back to no matter what's going on. So if you want to stop being confused and frustrated, everybody on YouTube, if you're watching this, you get 20% off my course. That is for life. The course is for life. That discount code is for life. I hope I don't regret that in the future, but I want to help veterans, and I put a lot of time and effort, and I paid for a studio space and all this stuff to make a really good course to give back. And I'm just trying to be able to educate people, because I won my claim. At the end of the day, I won my highest rated parts of my claims on my own with self-education, and I'm teaching how to do that on here. And I go super thoroughly in depth, and I give really good examples. And like I said, there's templates. You can reach out to me and ask questions about this in the comments if you want. But that's just what this video is about, is to express that I've won claims from learning on my own, and you can do the same thing. Having your education is a superpower. Anybody can go out of their way and pay somebody to get them the result that they need, but do that homework up front so that you are prepared, so that you know what you're talking about, and you know when a result comes through, what you might need to go after and fix when it's all said and done. I hope this video was helpful and you learned something. Please check out my course below at Veteran Claims Blueprints. I have the links below, 20% off immediately when you click the link, and you can see it at checkout. As I've expressed in this video, I showed a lot of parts of the course that you can see, but check it out for yourself. I mean, really, it is one of the best things I think that's out there on the market for veterans to learn from. See you guys next time.